Arsenal, Man City. What a game! What a game to intersperse between the chaos that we've now got to break down and look forward to predicting what's going to happen. We're going to do that. We're going to get some of your thoughts in the chat box. Welcome to everyone on Twitch, which is absolutely zero, seeing as I've only just set that up. But we're now on Twitch, which is quite interesting. Don't worry, YouTube's going nowhere. But I was told, why don't you do Twitch? So we're doing that now. So if you are on Twitch and you're listening, enjoy. Let's crack on with the show. Hello and welcome to the Gunner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction preview series, the day before the game. Every single time we do a preview show, and today is no different. Thinking about that, we got to play on Boxing. Are we playing on Boxing Day? We are. So I've got to do a show on Christmas Day. That is the level. I mean, to be fair, tier 4 where I am, so not really going anywhere. So I suppose it's not actually going to be too much of an issue doing a show on Christmas Day. So expect that. Expect some content for yourselves on Christmas Day as we preview the Chelsea show. But good evening, and I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you're enjoying the rest of your lockdown, wherever you are, or wherever you're not having lockdown. If you're based in Australia, lucky guys, I've got some friends out there who are having a great time. So that's good for them. But for me, it's pretty darn rubbish sitting in tier 4. But wherever you are, I hope you're absolutely fantastic. And I'd just like to point out, I know I've worn quite a few of the same sort of things over the last few days. This hat, which is new if you hadn't noticed, big drum and bass fan, and it's metric. If anyone knows about that, probably have no idea what I'm talking about. And a black t-shirt. It's very much my go-to, but they are different. I should point this out. You can see they're different. Look, we've got this, and on the back, very different. They're not all the same, but you can barely ever see the fact that they're not all just black t-shirts. So I want to point it out. I don't want to point out, because the thing with my members is on the channel, and you guys in the Discord server specifically, is you make me feel very image conscious. I'm not going to lie. So I feel I now have to justify my choices of wear, of choice of logos. This is the level you've put me to. This is the level that you've put me to now. The members, honestly. Anyway, let's crack on. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. And yes, Janice, Pendulum, fantastic artist. Great stuff. I was meant to see them earlier in the summer, and then COVID hit. So, fantastic stuff. You should wear your referee shirt, says Sam. Yes, okay. Yes, all right. Tier 3, boys, says Dave, as we have been up here in the Northwest for the last 2 years. It's what it feels like. It feels a lot longer down here in the Southeast. Anyway, Arsenal, Manchester City in the quarterfinal of the League Cup is such a strange game to try and preview, because I was putting together the lineups as we do, and we'll go into those in just a second for both teams. And it's really it's obviously the Arsenal side of things is a desired 11. And now I don't really know what I desire really from this game. Also, look at this thing. Look, pop filter. It did come. Told you it was on its way. But it's just a little bit strange for me. I'm not really sure how we're going to set up. I'm not really sure who I want to see playing. For me, and I said this on the podcast yesterday, this game is so irrelevant to me. And I don't mean to say that to disregard the League Cup. And usually I'm a big advocate of Arsenal trying to push for this trophy, because I think it could be a really kind of good base to build upon. But we have so many problems right now. So many problems right now that I just don't really know where to go with a lineup, or where to go with predicting how this game could go. Man City are going to take it seriously. They like this competition. Pep likes this competition. He always wants to win it. I think they've won the last couple. It's a really interesting one. And I don't really know the way we're going to go. So I'm loving to get your thoughts in the chat box. Throw your comments in. Let me know what you're feeling, what you're thinking ahead of this weird game against Manchester City. So let's have a look at what I predict Manchester City to go with. Now, there's quite a lot of changes from their last match, but still very, very strong. A lot of these players didn't play in the last match against Southampton. Zach Steffen in goal, keeper that I'm really excited about, keeper that they signed from the MLS. I believe it was New York City that he was at. Really exciting young American goalkeeper. And I'm really into my American USA kind of national team and looking at a lot of American and Canadian players as well. So really excited to see Stefan kind of develop and see where he goes. Cancelo, Stones, Ake and Mendy at the back. Ake is not played too much. Do I think that I think this is a good opportunity for Pep to finally rest Diaz. He's kind of played Diaz so much this season that he's probably going to have to rest the guy. John Stones has been really consistent for them, and I imagine he'll probably keep his place unless Aymeric Laporte is fit. Then Laporte might play, but I didn't see him on the bench against Southampton, but he may come in for this game specifically. Mendy at left back. Yeah, I mean he played Cancelo at left back against Southampton, so I'm expecting Mendy to come back in. Fernandinho sitting at the base of a midfield three, where I expect De Bruyne to still play. He's just one of those players that continues to stun Arsenal pretty much every time he plays. Sorry, it was Columbus Crew. Thank you, Ed Welch. Thank you for correcting me there. That was Zach Steffen's team. Who was I thinking of at New York City? It's because they're the links. It's because of the City group. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ed. Foden coming in. Interestingly, the reason why I don't think Torres will play is because he started against Southampton as their central striker. So maybe he'll be rested depending on the fitness of others. And Aguero didn't play at all. So maybe they'll use this game to kind of bed Aguero in. Mahrez didn't play either against Southampton. So I expect him to come in too. With Sterling kind of just being a player that could just play non-stop. And it's just a good side. You can't say anything too much about this one. I'm really kind of expecting it to be very, very strong. And it's very, very difficult to predict. Hence why many people choose not to use Man City players in their fantasy team, which is completely understandable, which we'll have a check-in with tomorrow at 5 o'clock for our Let's Talk Arsenal show. We'll have a check-in with you guys and your fantasy teams. Don't forget that tomorrow, every Tuesday and Friday at 5 o'clock, unless things happen. But last week we did it on Monday instead of Friday. But tomorrow, 5 o'clock, I'll be joined by a guest, fingers crossed, and yeah, maybe it'll be a member. We'll have to wait and see, because no one's decided to take that slot yet. We've got everyone else booked, but tomorrow's slot is still free. So maybe one of the members will jump on, or maybe we'll have a members Let's Talk Arsenal show. We'll have to wait and see. In terms of Arsenal's team then, I really was struggling to as you can see with this lineup. I have no idea. Let me know who you'll think, or give me your desired lineups, as I've done here, and give me the lineups that you think that Arteta is going to go with in the chat box. Let me know what you think we're going to go with. Tell me who you think is going to play. Sam Tressida says he thinks it's going to be Leno, Holdinho, Louise, Tierney, Mainsley, Ceballos, Elneny, Saka, Nelson, Balogun and Martinelli. Now, I've gone with Martinelli. I think that it's an opportunity to see him start. We can always bring him off if we don't want to give him a full game, but it's a good opportunity to get him straight in, playing against a good side, getting those minutes. Really, really important to do that. And I'm very, very happy to see him back. It's really, really key for me to see him back as soon as possible. Lacazette starting, who of course did not play, or from the start rather, against Everton. He did come on later on in the game. Nelson is supposedly back from injury too, which is a positive, and I would like to see him given a start. Emile Smith-Rowe is not there. Mainly because I've gone 3-4-3. If I hadn't have gone 3-4-3, I would have put Emile Smith-Rowe in as a number 10. But for me, he could play at left wing, arguably. And I've gone with Kolasinac. I've gone with Kolasinac mainly for rotation. Secondly, because I want to see Mainsley play in the midfield. And thirdly, because I'd like to see Tierney back at left centre-back in a back three, is why Kolasinac is there. I could have gone with Saka, but I kind of want to give Saka a rest ahead of Chelsea. Marie in a back three in the middle, I think is fine. Mustafi was a toss-up between him and Chambers, but I went with Mustafi mainly down to questions I have around Chambers' fitness. If Chambers is fully fit, then 100% I'm with you guys, and I can see you guys saying it in the chat box. Let's throw Chambers into that right centre-back slot. Bellerin takes back a place for the league, because I'd like to see either one of Mainsley or Cedric move in to the game against Chelsea. But let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box for your predicted lineups. Dan Roberts says Leno, Cedric, Chambers, Mustafi, Marie, Mainsley in a back five. Elneny and Willock in the middle with Emile Smith-Rowe, Balogun and Nelson. Dave says reverse psychology on Emil Smith Rowe. I like it. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going for. I'm putting Pep into a false sense of security, Dave. That is the level that we have to go to here. Juan Felipe Palacio Rivera says, as long as he does not risk any important players tomorrow, I don't care if we lose. Therefore, play Balogun. Joe says, is there a God? Can we win back-to-back games? I mean, in the cup, our last win, of course, was against Liverpool. So that feels so long ago. How long ago does that Liverpool game sound now? It's ridiculous how long ago that sounds. Franklin Comet says, I think Balogun will leave if he doesn't get some starts. I agree with you. Dave Lennon says, who are the important players, Juan? Yes, it's a good question. Who are the important players? Because who are they? Because none of the players are changing anything for Arsenal right now. Peter, Karthik. Why is Laporte sitting here? Cheeky boy. Peter Redder says 4-3-3 goalkeeper Leno, Cedric, Mustafi, Marie and Tierney as a back four. Mainsley, Willock and Emil Smith Rowe in the midfield with Martinelli, Laka and Nelson. A lot of you are wanting to see Emil Smith Rowe play, which I completely get. And if we weren't playing a 3-4-3, which is what I think we may go for, I definitely think he was in with a chance of starting. Tomodo says, I don't want Mustafi playing over Saliba or Chambers as he's not our future. And that's a fair point, Tomodo. Mustafi is purely in there because of a fitness thing for me. I'm not sure about Chambers. And I just don't know about Saliba. I suppose in the desired 11, I could have put Saliba in there. I just don't know if he's going to be picked. Apparently, Kurjan, who's the young, I believe he's Romanian youngster who's in the squad for tomorrow, which is interesting to find that out. Interesting to see if he plays. Interesting to see what other youngsters play, the likes of Aziz. Will Balogun get any minutes? Would you like him to see him get some minutes? It's really unpredictable. It's not one of those things in which you can turn around and say, yep, that's what it's going to be. How much do we care about this competition? How much emphasis do we put on it? What is some news is that the final has been delayed. Usually the Carabao Cup final takes place in February, end of February, March time. Now it's being played in April. What they're hoping is that fans will be available to return to stadiums, and we don't really know, obviously, with the situation with COVID, how fans will be around grounds and when they'll be expected to return, how the vaccine will have any impact on kind of cases and defence of people up against the virus by April. So it's going to be interesting to see who, or rather how many fans and where in the country are we going to start to see these fans returning to grounds. I like the idea. I'm fully behind it. Delay the cup competition. Get some fans in the final. They deserve it of any club that get there, from my opinion, whatsoever. Tiba Pest says it would be great to see Aziz. Daniel Roberts says desired 11, Okonkwo in goal, which is obviously our youth keeper. Cedric, Saliba, Marie, Tierney, Aziz, Mainsley, Martinelli, Emil Smith Rowe, Kurjan and Balogun. That's a very, I mean, that is the youth side, bar Tierney and Mainsley, really, because Cedric plays in the youth team, Balogun and Emil Smith Rowe, and Marie plays in the youth team right now. So, yeah, I can see where you've gone with that, Dan. I understand. Top Techers says, would like to see Balogun start. He could be a better option than Eddie in the long run. Osman says, if Balogun doesn't start, he's officially gone. Because what other game is he going to start in? The best way to convince a footballer to stay is to let them start football. 2 + 2 is 4. Quick at maths there. Quick maths. Dave Lennon says, definitely would like to see Balogun get a start in this game. So that rounds off the preview. I have left a little bit of the show for some questions. So if you've got any specific questions, I'd like to turn this into a little bit of a Q&A towards the end of the show so we can have some discussions around specific things. It doesn't have to be about City specifically, but it can be around the club in general. But I wanted to leave a 15-minute section at the end for a Q&A, so feel free to throw some Arsenal-related questions into the chat box and we can have a bit of a discussion. Now Arsenal says wouldn't like Martinelli to start, would like him to come on for the last 20 to 25 minutes to be fit for Saturday, because we know what he did against Chelsea last time. If he does that again and we somehow, some way don't lose, those Chelsea fans are going to be getting so many tweets, so many Martinelli related tweets. I mean, it's going to happen in the build-up because it winds them up. So we can sit 15th in the league and still wind up Chelsea fans with that Martinelli goal. That's how great it is. Made in Brooklyn 1975. Thank you ever so much for the donation. It says, conspiracy theory. Is it possible that Arteta didn't want to sign Willian and plays him without fail in order to expose him and make an example of him to Edu. Made in Brooklyn, you ask a similar question to a question that was asked to James Cook, who joined us for a podcast a couple of weeks ago, about playing players to kind of expose how bad they are. James's response is very similar to mine, in which I think it's ludicrous to think it. It's a question that's worth asking because I'm sure plenty of supporters will have that theory, but I think it would be absolutely ridiculous to do that, and for that reason, I just don't see that as a legitimate thing to expect of the club. I think it would be a little bit crazy. Yannick Mack says pigs in a blanket or roast lamb. They are very different things, Yannick. They're very, very different things. I mean, I'd have both. I'd have pigs wrapped in roast lamb personally. Maybe that's why I'm a bit of a fat Emmerich Laporte at the moment. Matt Gray says, question: Allegri comes in now but gets no money to spend until the summer, or keep Arteta and give him 50 million to spend in January? The second one. Absolutely no doubt in my mind. The second one. Wilson, who is responsible for Arsenal's decline? Wilson, it's a very, very big question, and I don't when you say who. I think it's rather how many people are responsible for Arsenal's decline and why. I think you can go all the way back to talk about the end of the Wenger tenure. You look at the Kroenkes and the decision-making with some of the appointments that have been made at executive level. You can talk about Raul Sanyehi. You can talk about Unai Emery's failure to kind of recover Arsenal's position in the league. You could talk about, obviously, Arteta at the moment failing to turn things around and arguably getting us to an even worse position. There's loads, Wilson. It's honestly a question that you could base an entire podcast on, and maybe that's something we will have to do in the future. But it's a huge question, Wilson, and I don't think I'd pin it on one specific person if it was down to me. Sam Trester says, do you think Arteta is a puppet? Not necessarily my opinion. And that's fair enough, Sam. I appreciate you dropping in the question. I don't think Arteta is a puppet. I think Arteta is very much of his own mind. I think he's making decisions based upon his own judgment. A lot of those are wrong. I think that's even more evidence to suggest that he's not a puppet, because we're seeing a lot of inexperienced decisions being made by an inexperienced manager. So no, I don't think that he is a puppet whatsoever. Oh, this is going to be fun. Christopher Fung says, gun to your head, who would you prefer on loan between Isco and Eriksen? Neither is not allowed. I would choose Eriksen for two reasons. Because it's a loan. I'm not dialed. That's not my reason, by the way. But for either of them, because it's a loan and I'm not dialed into either. My first reason for picking Eriksen is a selfish one. One, because it would annoy the hell out of Spurs fans. That genuinely is one of my reasons. Because I hate them so much. I think it would annoy them. I think it would annoy seeing one of their legends. Let's be real. They don't have legends because they only existed. I mean, do they still exist? They haven't won anything. The League Cup. So he's actually a legend. I saw an amazing GIF. I think it was Bleacher Report made it. And it put lots of Arsenal and Spurs legends side by side. How many of them were of the modern day era for Spurs? It was hilarious. It was hilarious. And yet still for Arsenal, you had very big players in the modern day. Santi Cazorla, who I consider an Arsenal legend. Absolutely no doubt about it. It was just great to see. I would choose Eriksen for that. I would also choose Eriksen because I just think that Isco, for me... The thing about Isco, and it's on loan, so he's going to go back. And I feel as though that Eriksen, if he did do really well, I think Arsenal would be in a better position to sign him from Inter, who under Conte have no interest in keeping him. Would have a better chance of signing him if they wanted to. But I don't want either of them. But you've made me pick Chris, so I've gone for Eriksen for those reasons as I've highlighted. Tomodo says, the thing is, do we want the usual first teamers to start against City, as it may mean more rotation for Chelsea, like Martinelli and Emile Smith-Rowe? It's a good point, and I take it on board. I personally feel that he will pick plenty of first teamers. I think that he wants to get a win as quickly as possible, especially against the big side, to kind of turn things around. And he will use this game as an opportunity to do that, 100%. A lot of you guys are saying Isco in the chat as a response to the question. Wow, we've got a lot of questions. I need to speed through some of these. Top Techers says, will the Cronkies loosen the purse strings for January spending? Yes, I think they will. Juan says, Tom, why do you think Arteta does not play 4-4-2? Having more defenders does not mean defending better. I think he doesn't play it because he's very much married to the idea of a front three. Because from his time at Manchester City, I think that's his experience, that's his coaching. So that's why I don't think he plays with a 4-4-2. Thibaut Pesque says, will Bellerin do... Who would you personally have as your number one target this January, realistically? Emi Buendia would be my number one target. That's just me. I would choose Emi Buendia, personally. Does Willian have Arteta's family hostage? Find out next week on TGT. No, don't be silly. Wilson says, why is Arteta using players that are underperforming? Because I've said this before. I think he's picking these players like Willian and Xhaka and Bellerin because they're the most experienced, and he wants those experienced players to get us out of this hole. That's why I think he's picking them. Do I agree with it? No, I don't think you should pick players based on experience. You pick players based on form. You pick players based on the opponent. You pick players based on the system that you want to use. And for that reason, he is making some big mistakes. Martino Milicevic says, Wenger as a caretaker manager until the end of the season if nobody is available in January. I mean, no, you just keep Arteta in that case, like, unless the results get really bad. You can't go back to Wenger. Like, you just can't. You can't go through the 3 years we've been through to just go back to Wenger. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Karthik says, Tom, did you see Arteta's press conference today? The stats thing gets me right. Yeah, I didn't like it. I read it. It's available for everyone to see if you want to go read it. I didn't like it either. Dan Roberts says, did Arsenal not see this coming after Wenger left? Did they not look at the Man United decline after Fergie left? I think they did, and I think they thought they were going to go about it the right way. I think they thought they had a good structure in Raul and Sven and Vinay, but it's just not worked. I think they had a really good setup, but it's just not worked at all. I think COVID has an impact. I mean, obviously COVID is it's a level playing field for all clubs, but unfortunately COVID's impacted Arsenal during a time of massive transition, which will have an impact, however big or small. It's not an excuse, and I'm not saying it is an excuse, but I'm saying that it is definitely an impact for sure. Osman Ali says, Tom, do you think that Kroenke would consider selling now that we've capitulated and he continues to lose money yearly if he gets a big bid? No, of course not, because you wouldn't sell now, because the likelihood is Arsenal will improve. If you were to sell Arsenal now, arguably it's the lowest value that it's ever been. So I don't think that is the case at all, Osman. It's a great question, Wilson, worthy of an entire show by itself to talk about who is responsible for where we are right now. Tomoto says, Tom, do you think Buendia and Houssem Aouar are the minimum in Jan? Also, I read Depay could be sold from... Yeah, I wonder where you read that. If we should be going for him as well. I don't think we should go for Depay. Not because I wouldn't have him, because there's no point wasting time. He's going to Barcelona. Buendia... and Aouar, the minimum. I think Buendia or Aouar is the minimum. I also think that a centre midfielder is possibly also someone to consider, and maybe even a right centre back, which I know will annoy a few people because of Saliba, but with the players that are leaving, with how Rob Holding's a sort of 7 out of 10 every week, and we need kind of an 8 or 9 out of 10 at the moment. I would hope that we go for some of those types of players, but minimum is one really good creative midfielder for me. That's the minimum I expect. One really good creative midfielder. Next up from that is 2 midfielders. Be that another creator, be that Aouar, be that Bissouma, those types of guys. That's what I'm looking for. If we haven't signed a really good creative player by Crystal Palace on the 14th of January, which is the second game after West Brom, who we play on the 2nd of January, which I think is a little bit too early to be expecting transfers to come in. I would like to have seen transfers come in by the 1st of January, to be honest. But in a real world, 14th, Crystal Palace is more realistic. And if we haven't done it by then, Edu has got a lot of questions to answer because his job is not being done good enough, and that's a fact. Top Tecker says Willian must have something in his contract where he's guaranteed to play a certain amount of games. Possibly. I can't find any other excuse other than the experience side of things. What's your honest prediction for the City game? We will come on to that, Wilson, at the end of the show. Don't worry. Joe says... Where's Joe? I've lost Joe's question. Hold on, let me scroll up. Why is it gone? There's so many of you asking questions. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? I've lost it. Oh, that's annoying. Sorry, Joe. I will find it. I'm going to find it. There we go. We're not getting 2 players, guys. 2 is very, very lucky. Well, I feel like we will. If I was a better man, and I'm not, usually, other than with Asmit, who's going to owe me a tenner in January, which is going to be great. I'd be willing to put money on 2 players coming in. George Davis says, Edu out, Ranić in, Awar or Ericsson, Awar all day, Buendia or Isco, Buendia all day. Ed Welch says, what's more painful, a kick in the balls or Willian starting? I mean, flip a coin. Flip a coin. Wilson says, should Martinelli start against Chelsea or do you think it is too soon? If he doesn't play or if he comes off the bench against City, yes. If he starts against City, no. I don't think you should overplay him at all. Iron Cub says, I would go Isco. Ericsson did really poorly at Spurs towards the end. And then also at Inter. Whereas Isco only did bad at Real Madrid under a manager who was also misusing James Rodriguez, Asensio. I don't know. I think that's harsh on Zidane. I see your points, Iron Cup. I see your points. I think it's a bit harsh on Zidane, personally. That's how I feel. Sam says, is Arteta's continued selection of Willian, Xhaka and Bellerin to protect younger players from scrutiny? Maybe, but he's picked a lot of young players. He's still picked a lot of young players, like Saka he picks week in, week out. So I don't, and he subbed on Martinelli the other day, so I don't necessarily think it's because of that. Wilson says, do Arsenal need more than one creative midfielder and why? Yes, they do, because we lack that position. If we bought someone and they got injured, we'd still lack. So yes, that's why we need more than one. Dave says, question, do we need a Ralph Rangnick as our main signing? Yes, I think that's certainly something that we should look at if Edu fails in the January window. Peter Renner says, if the Kroenkes sanction 100 million of buys in January, who would you buy? 100 million? I'd find out what Szoboszlai's release clause is at RB Leipzig now he's moved there and pay it. That's what I'd do. No, I'd buy Basuma for 30 to 40 million. I'd buy Buendia for 25 million. And I would buy maybe Kanate for 35 to 40 if that's what you can get him for. I'd also ask them about Konrad Laimer as well. I'd go to Leipzig and get Patson Daka for 15 to 20 million. Not Leipzig, sorry, Salzburg. I'd go... I know I've spent over 100 million, but you got me excited on spending. Who else is there that I like? I'd go get Carlos Vela back for nothing from LA. I'm only joking. He's doing really well, though. Fair play to the guy. We should go for Buendia and Basuma, says Salim, who is always an avid tweeter and respecter of the work I've put out. So pleasure to have you in the chat, Salim. Good to have you here. Juan says, Tom, if you could, would you slap Arteta and yell, wake up? No, I'm not going to incite violence on anyone, Juan, but I would give him a good shake and I'd say, come on, mate. Just tell me why, Willian. Tell me why. That's all I want to know. Just tell me why. Thapello, which is a fantastic name. You got to tell me what heritage that is. Thapello. What would that be? I'm not sure. Arteta is a puppet because he always protects the board and the Kroenkes at all times. I mean, any Arsenal manager has done that. Out of nowhere, he'll randomly say they are backing him. If he is backed, then why no creative midfielder? Well, we have to wait until January, won't we? They clearly tried to sign one in January, but we ended up getting Partey instead. It's really unfortunate he's been injured. I think that's massive. I don't think we go through this form as badly as we have done if Partey remains fit. I really don't. So really fingers crossed he comes back very quickly and we handle him properly. Andy B says, Tom, if we go with another centre-back, is there someone with a strong leadership and experience that we can bring in? I mean, someone in the Discord server was posting their career mode, and they suggested getting Vestergaard from Southampton, which I don't think would ever happen. But he's got fantastic leadership qualities. I like Bednarek as well at Southampton, the Polish centre-back. I believe he's Polish. So, yeah, I think there's a couple of ones in the Prem you would look at. Yeah, that's about it. That's where we're going to leave that one. Thank you, Andy, for your question. Top Tecker says, it's a mess at the moment, Tom. I don't get the Saliba thing. It's the players must see Ozil and Saliba in training and think, why are they not playing? It can't be because of healthy football for poor players that have no chance of playing. It must be frustrating for them. Yeah. Osman says, Tom, do you think Toyin Koopmeiners is gettable for Arsenal if we were? I think he's of course he's gettable. Every player has their price. Would you pay the price that they're going to want for Koopmeiners? I don't know. Is it at RZ he's at now, or is it PSV? Koopmeiners is at RZ. Yes, it is RZ. But is he the player that we need? Is Koopmeiners the guy that we need? Maybe. He's kind of that defensive mind, more deeper midfielder. But I'd really prioritise more attacking. Oh, I says Martin Odegaard. I think Madrid would want a lot of money. They'd want a lot of money for him. Gary Hardy says, I really don't think one creative midfielder will change this scene. The tactics need to change and not have the crossing tactic. I agree with you. You can't just expect, even if we were to sign Aouar, which is arguably like the marquee signing that a lot of people want, I don't think that he solves the problems at all on his own whatsoever. Mike says, what right-sided Premier League centre-back would you sign? I think we would focus on the Premier League proven players. Yeah, I mean, someone that's either of the two guys at Southampton can play there, I believe, at right-sided. Who else? Who else would I sign? I would have signed Ben Godfrey from Norwich, but we didn't go for him. He looks fantastic, really pacey, centre-back that's playing at Oh, there's two of me. There we go. Sorry about that. Back again. Grealish would be insane, says Dan. Yeah, but you have to pay a hell of a lot for that. A hell of a lot for that. Joe says, yeah, I don't see a creative midfielder changing anything either, with a tactically dense child leading us around. That is so harsh, Joe. Come on, son. Let's be a little bit. Come on, son. Sheath King says Godfrey and Aaron's from Norwich would have been great. Obviously, Godfrey's gone now, but Aaron's and Buendia is who I would go for personally. Fapello says Max Aaron's, Buendia, 45 million double deal. Lime, I think Max Aaron's costs more. I mean, Barcelona were in for him in the summer and they were bidding around 20 and Norwich were saying no. So I think you'd nearly have to go near 30 to get Aaron's, to be honest. Yes, there was two of me. Sheath King at Bayern Munich. It's not a bad shout. He is someone that's struggled for game time with Goretzka and Kimmich playing in the midfield. So maybe he's someone that's not a bad shout at all. Sheath King, I like that. Gary Hardy says Declan Rice, right centre back, 80 million. Lol. Yeah, not sure about that. Not sure about that at all. Iron Cub says, I also think Lima would be more than 35 million. Yeah, maybe. RB Leipzig do not sell on the cheap. That is for sure. Let's have your predictions for the City game before we wrap things up. What do you think the scoreline's going to be? How do you think things are going to go? Are you being confident you're going to go against the norm of what we've been expecting from Arsenal right now? Tell me what you think. I am going to go for... Do I go with my head or my heart is the question. I am going to go for 2-2. No. I can't predict 2-2. I'm going to go for 1-1 and we win on pens. That's what I'm going to go for. Ed Welch says, close game, 6-0 City. Now Arsenal says 3-1 City. Yannick Max says 5-4. To be fair, we might be playing with the Europa League side, so we might actually score a couple of goals. Joe says 1-0 City. Iron Cup 6-5 City. 1-1 penalties win, says Karthik. He's agreeing with me. Daniel Roberts says 6-0 Arsenal. Balogun to score all of them. It'll happen one day, Dan. If we keep saying it, law of averages, it's bound to happen. It's just like me paying for a lottery ticket every week. It's bound to happen. Tony Mills, 4-1 City. RY says 0-0, win on pens. Wilson says 2-1 Arsenal. Peter Renner says 1-0 Man City through an own goal. Dave Lennon says 3-0 City. Osman says City to win, 3-1. Martinelli to score. Tomoto says 0-0, Borfest. Sheath King says 3-0 to City. There's a lot of negativity, which I completely understand. There's a lot of realism. It's not negative. It's just being realistic at the end of the day. I don't blame you guys. There'll be a Let's Talk Arsenal show at 5 o'clock tomorrow, which, of course, is well ahead of the game. But we always do one at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. Arsenal don't really play on a Tuesday, but we're not going to change the schedule. I'm going to open it up to the members. Members, if you're interested, 5 o'clock UK time tomorrow. If you put it in the Discord server and you put it into the members podcast channel, it's probably going to be done on first come, first serve basis. So if you want to do it and you've been tuning into today's show, congratulations. You're in with a chance of being on. So 5 o'clock tomorrow. Let me know if you're up for it. I'm probably going to have max 3 guests, maybe max 2. I'll decide at some point. I want to get as much talking as possible. So yeah, let me know. If you want to join up as a member and have a chance to appear on a future show, which I'm going to be starting to do bi-monthly. So twice a month, we're going to start having our expert member shows. Not in December, because it's just so busy over the Christmas period. But in towards January, we definitely will. Then join up. Press the join button, which should be below you, just above the description. You can't do it on certain devices, but you can do it on most. You get exclusive content. You get used to the emojis, which, I mean, you can use a Xhaka emoji. How great is that? I've really done a bad job at selling those. But it's a great pleasure to have everyone in the Discord server. You're fantastic. I appreciate it. And everything that you donate goes back into the channel, whether it's investing in these, which I've just realised it looks like it's not on properly. It must be. Yeah, it is. Whether it's investing in microphones, spit guards, cameras, laptops, it goes towards the show, making it as best as it possibly can be. It's the intro videos, the outro videos, guests in the future maybe. That cost, yes, guests do cost. You have to see how much I have to pay Mike to come on the show. It's unbelievable. Drew costs at least a coffee machine a year. He always wants the latest model. John just loves caps. That's just specifically Germany caps, so he gets paid in those. And Owen gets paid in good wishes, and that's it really. He's pretty cheap, in honesty. But thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you as always. I hope you enjoy the game tomorrow if you don't tune in tomorrow, but I hope you do. 5 o'clock, we'll be live straight after the game as always. But other than that, it's been a pleasure to speak to you as it always has and always is, and as always, up the Arsenal.